Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. Bienvenido. I hope you enjoyed those soothing Dragon Quest tunes. I think that soundtrack was very fitting for the topic of today's episode of OP Radio. OP Radio number 6. Can you believe we're already 6 episodes deep? Amazing. We're having fun. So, today's guest is Social Metaverse Project Atlantis World. And rather than me maybe butcher some names here, I'm just going to allow them to introduce themselves. Atlantis World team, how are you doing this morning? Yeah, you want to introduce yourself to the audience here?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. GM, great to be here and excited for today's OP Radio. My name is Rev. I'm one of the co-founders at Atlantis World. Been in space since 2017. Tried a lot of different things from, asset tokenization, real estate tokenization, to personal community tokens. I've been involved in the multiple DAOs and still are big fan of NFTs and absolutely love optimism, and moreover been in the gaming, I would say, for 10 years, both as mostly as a player but also professionally some years from that. Today also joined by
I think you cut off there, Rev. Elisa, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, let's go. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Optimism. Hello to everyone who made it. I'm marketing lead at Atlantis. First and foremost, identify as a gamer. I'm founder at Frontier Gaming Watch, writing about the bleeding edge of gaming every week. I've been in Web3 for over a year and a half now. I have a marketing background previously at Reflexa Finance. And yeah, very, very excited to talk about Atlantis World and how we intend to push forward gaming via education.
Awesome.
Education via gaming.
Yeah, well, we're super excited to have you here. Before we get into all that, I should probably mention my name is Mac. I'm a content strategist at OP Labs. And I'm also joined today by a fellow optimist. Benji, do you want to tell the folks who you are?
Hey everyone, I'm Benji. I do developer advocacy here. So if anyone on the audience is, launching a project, thinking about launching a project, wants to talk about crypto and wants to talk about optimism, that's what I do. So hit me up at any point. I've met the team from Atlantis World by some amazing chances, and just working with them, talking to them, hearing about what they're doing, their larger vision of just educating the masses, onboarding the masses onto crypto in a more accessible way. The fact that they're been a public good and they've fought to be a public good their entire existence it's just an incredible energy that I felt just getting to know this team and becoming friends with them. So it's very, very excited for this Twitter space. And I'm excited for the community to also hear all the amazing stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, awesome. So it looks like we're dealing with typical Twitter space technical difficulties, but we still have Elisa with us, thankfully. So I think we can, continue with the conversation and people will join back in as they're able. So awesome. So now we know who's here, but let's kind of frame this up. Elisa, can you maybe big picture tell us what is Atlantis World?
Yes. So Atlantis World is a social metaverse MMO where many different DeFi protocols, NFT communities, and DAOs have their own social hub. The aim of all of this is for users to be able to connect via video and voice call, as well as use dApps in game. So it's basically, creating a social layer for Web3 culture and beyond. And through that, allowing also new people who are really unfamiliar with Web3 to come into the space and be welcomed by a community that, can guide them in operating this quite confusing environment. CJ can definitely help pitch into the bigger picture too.
Yeah, sure. By the way, hi everyone. I'm CJ. I'm co-founder of Atlantis World, and also doing many other stuff across the board, such as within Chain. I'm always working closely with Optimism. About Atlantis World, Eliza, I think it was a fantastic description. I'm really, really excited about, and I know that also Mac mentioned about lots of technical difficulties with Twitter Spaces. We're really actually bullish and excited about maybe one day in the future having OP Radio inside of Atlantis World, inside of OP City, because we have this really exciting feature whereby you can actually promote and demote speakers, but toggle kind of on or off video chat. within these kind of token gated or not kind of social game spaces, which we think is really powerful. I would say it's definitely a social MMO. It has this kind of questing element also. So we're wanting to kind of onboard the next generation of users into Web3 through this game questing, as well as kind of change the approach to incentive when it comes like to moving away from purely like, financial incentives into kind of enabling users actually, as well as potentially earning some financial reward, to actually build, their reputation and governance power and other kind of perks kind of within the game, as well as kind of in the wider ecosystem, and even bridging kind of into the real world as well. So definitely really exciting times overall with the recent launch and the upcoming month of events. And yeah, really grateful for Optimism support and can't wait to, keep moving forwards and picking up progress, as well as activating the community.
Absolutely. And, I think with a lot of this stuff, I think maybe more instructive than talking about it, which I think we're going to have a great time talking about it. Don't get me wrong, but like just see for yourself. And Atlantis World, you recently had an announcement with your alpha. So do you want to just kind of tell people about that and how they can access it? Because I think seeing is believing. And if people are able to just hop in this and check it out, they're going to be really impressed with what you guys have built so far.
Definitely. So we just had our first ever kind of free-to-play public launch, which is a really exciting milestone. We've been actually working on this, not like this specific, I would say, launch, but in general, just kind of iterating our product and vision and shipping stuff, starting with a demo, an early prototype, scaling the team actually without taking single dollar from any investor. We're fully kind of bootstrapped, community-first project, kind of remaining, fully independent and always taking this kind of community-first approach. So it's a really, really like exciting and important milestone for us that we're incredibly proud of in terms of having this public launch. So, I mean, if you have Web3 Wallet, this is, by the way, something we're working on to overall make the game more accessible and have even a zero-to-hero onboarding flow where users might create, for example, their first wallets and so on inside of the game. If you have, just simple MetaMask wallet or something compatible with Wallet Connect, you can jump straight away in your web browser, alpha.atlantis.world, and the mobile version will be coming soon also. But better to jump in on desktop for now, as we're still kind of iterating and trying to improve the user experience on the mobile side, but it's definitely a priority for us. Atlantis World was kind of founded, on the principle of being as accessible as possible and as open to as many users in as many regions around the world as possible. But you can hop in there straight away and start with some simple onboarding quests, as well as exploring the Optimism City kind of right away.
That's right. And for people who are attending this Twitter Space live, Benji has been so kind as to pin the announcement tweet from Atlantis World to the space. So you could just click into that. If you're listening to this later, just go to alpha.atlantis.world and you can check out this really cool, immersive, sort of video game-esque interface to crypto. Highly recommend checking it out. Okay, so that was a great introduction, guys. Appreciate that. I think we've had a bunch of separate conversations sort of about values alignment between Atlantis World and Optimism, but I want to kind of dig into that a little more. So I'm curious, why are you guys so bullish on Optimism, or what makes you Optimism fans?
I think I can speak for the whole team in saying, we're very bullish on public goods. We want to create something that is accessible to everyone and will benefit people on a wider scale. We're definitely very value aligned with Optimism, but it's not only that. The tech is fantastic, secure, fast, scalable, strong governance, whether that be token or citizen houses. We're bullish on the OP stack. And yeah, in general, just feel very strong alignment with the ecosystem and the community direction when it comes to iterating the state of incentives. As Benji says, change the incentives, change the world. We definitely believe in that. And as you have mentioned, Mac, being all talk is never a good look. I think these things need to be actually put into action. And that's really what we're looking to do. Mixing up the bag of incentives from purely financial to also, basically incentivizing participation and rewarding the people who participate. So yeah.
Yes, that is the Web3 utopia we're all signed up for. Benji, I feel like you have some interesting things to say here. Are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah, so I think, there's a lot of value alignments in terms of what Atlantis World's doing and what Optimism's doing. I remember that first call as one of my favorite ever first calls at Optimism, just hearing about the story of how CJ and Rev met each other at a hackathon, and they just like sat down and thought of all these ideas, and they really like zoned in on the idea of accessibility and just making the experience of anyone using crypto a little more accessible, a little more fun, and a little more social. And what struck me at the first time I ever spoke to them was just their openness, their friendliness, and just like their emphasis on public goods and remaining a public good. Atlantis World has a product that, I in my eyes could definitely go to venture capital and raise at massive valuations and do a bunch of things. And I believe they've been approached for this exact thing multiple times, but they've stuck very, very true towards being an open public good. And it's just incredible to meet people who have such like amazing character, willpower, and belief in what they're doing. Um, inside, so with that tangentially as well, I know CJ and Rev also do massive initiatives around the world where they host hackathons in Ukraine. CJ is also working on this thing to create donations for Pakistan for with the floods and everything, and all of this kind of ties into this larger mission of just like impact over profit, which is of course what optimism stands for. Impact equals profit. And especially as we look towards looking at RPGF and our own approach within optimism with public goods. For those of you who might not be aware, essentially any impact that you do on optimism, any activity that you do on optimism benefits retroactive public goods funding, because all of the fees that we generate go into a pot of that then retroactively funds public goods. And then having that alignment with what Atlantis World is doing and their character and testament and their belief in just making crypto more accessible to the mass population of the world, it's just one that I immediately, the first call I ever spoke to them, it was just the synergies were right there. And we've gone a long way since. I think like our Get Started initiative that we had a few months back, Atlantis World was a big part of that. You could actually walk into Atlantis World, walk around with your character, go to 1inch, make a swap. And with the new upgrades that Atlantis World has, they also have voice chat and video chat. So you can imagine so much of crypto happens with friends. So like you do something in crypto, you have a Telegram group or you have a Twitter group or whatever it is. And you're like, hey, I did this. Hey, this thing came out. Try this. With Atlantis World, you don't need to be on this text interface. You can actually be in a world, walking around Optimism's entire ecosystem with your friends in a group. Go to 1inch, do a swap, go to the Quick's house, buy an NFT, all while still being together in unison. And I think that just unlocks a series of social domino effects that can just lead to a really, really immersive and fun experience. So though that's a bit more on the product and the values as well, but happy to dive into anything else. I'm a massive fan of the testament, the character, the willpower of all of these people on stage today.
Yeah, I love this idea of, we use this metaphor of like the city of optimism. If you have been following optimism, we use that metaphor a lot. And I really like this metaphor because, the Optimism Collective is an online collective. Where does that collective hold space? And it's on the internet and it's on chain. But the cool thing about Atlantis World is this like digital embodiment of the city of optimism. So you can actually sort of hop in there and walk around the city of optimism and visit the different neighborhoods and the different buildings. So I think it's like a really cool way to actually sort of bring that metaphor to life.
I completely agree. I actually think this is really related to just the fact that gradually everything that's online is kind of moving towards being more visual and being more gamified. I mean, even data suggests that video games are gradually replacing social media. There's actually a study that was made by Newzoo, and they found that time spent engaging with video game content, whether that be viewing video games, creating, socializing within game worlds, this increased by 4% from Generation Z to Gen Alpha, which is the generation post 2010, taking away from time spent on social media. So it kind of looks like, now people are looking for more interactive experiences, and Web3 is no different. In fact, Web3 is kind of the leader when it comes to that, right? Like we preach community and connectivity, and that is exactly what Atlantis World is trying to reconcile. Trying to provide, a platform for people to connect better, really. And I think this kind of pivots into our vision of gaming as a public good. As previously mentioned, Atlantis World is a fully independent bootstrapped project with community and grants and been building for over a year and a half. No VCs, we're just true to the vision of gaming being a public good. And yeah, basically, we want to be able to kind of target these new generations and attract these users, right? Like if you look at the amount of millions of players, which are often kids between the ages of, I think, 15 and 24, spending time on Roblox, I presume this trend of from going from social media to games will only continue to increase for newer generations, which is why it is so powerful to grasp the opportunity to educate and onboard people into crypto through the medium of gaming.
Yeah, very interesting. This could be the way that the next generation gets sort of onboarded into Web3. You guys have already done some really impressive and amazing work, but I'm wondering, can you speak at all to maybe future plans there? Anything else in the works?
Yeah. So as the current version shows, we're kind of testing out quests. We have limited capabilities right now, which is frustrating but amazing at the same time because it really confirms that the future will be amazing. We're looking to gamify a hell of a lot more, meaning we want to add layers to quests. We want to include a superpowered loot system that will actually enable users to build reputation and governance power through acquiring in-game items, unlocking skills, perks, experiences in game. So for instance, if you complete a quest which allows you to learn, I don't know, for example, how to use a protocol or how to upload an NFT on chain, through that reward you will have a certain percentage of governance or kind of like a participation proof, which means that it rewards participants, which is what we're really, really trying to push for. And I think it's definitely a challenging kind of arena because it's never really done before, in the sense where it's very difficult to balance incentives and avoid vampire users coming in and kind of sucking all of those incentives out if they're financial and even non-financial, right? There's loads of risks giving governance power to users. So it's definitely something that is being very well thought out, and we intend to release it in the future when we're ready, when we've tested everything, of course. But yeah, I'd say mainly to wrap that point up, we want to make the game as fun as possible, and we want to encourage loads of crypto communities to come and host events in game. As mentioned previously, for example, this space would be able to happen in game just because it's funner. Like it is funner to be able to see little characters moving around. It makes it a lot more realistic. So
yeah, I agree. It is fun. And what are we doing if we're not having fun, right? Speaking of quests, I think there's a quest with the release of this alpha. There's a quest involved with that. Do you want to? I think this is a good segue into Optimism Month. So maybe we could talk about that and the quest that's contained therein.
Yeah, great idea. So the quest is actually a puzzle. So yeah, as Max mentioned, the Optimism special quest is called Find the Path, and it involves 5 different buildings, 5 different project mascots, 1inch, Perpetual Protocol, Pull Together, OP Labs HQ, and Arve and Quicks. So basically, users have to figure out the right order of these buildings, and they are rewarded with Optimism Pathfinder NFT when they've completed the puzzle. Yeah, the goal was to introduce the social houses in a fun way, within the quest capabilities that we currently have. And it's kind of a teaser of what's to come and what we're capable of. You can also access dApps within the game, which is one of our main value adds. You can go, as Benji mentioned, you could go in 1inch and do a swap there. So it's kind of like a first interaction way to kind of show people what is going to happen later on, basically using Web3 apps inside the game. But yeah, Optimism Month. Yeah.
Just before we get into Optimism Month, just so I understand the quest and so people listening do. So they have to visit these buildings in a certain sequence in order to unlock that Pathfinder NFT. Is that how it works?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, that sounds fun, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna have fun figuring out this puzzle to get that NFT. But yeah, please continue with Optimism Month. You have a whole month dedicated to optimism.
Yes. So OP City is the first city we open up. So there's the Atlantis core map and there's Optimism City. And there will be, other blockchain cities, but we decided to, work together with Optimism and dedicate it to Optimism because, you have been our longest supporters and in fact just the most value aligned protocol there is. And yeah, so we are continuing, to activate the Optimism ecosystem in Optimism City. We will continue to expand the city as well, planning to add some buildings, including OpenSea, synthetics, and more. And yeah, OP City in and of itself is just a way for people to explore the ecosystem within the game. And hopefully communities, will go there to connect together.
Nice. And you're hosting like certain events with some of these partners in Atlantis World during this month, right?
Yep, that's the plan. So basically, one partner every week will be activated and we will be inviting their community. So this week, we will announce it today who the partner will be. And yeah, we will basically host opening parties and there'll be speakers and should be very fun.
Nice. When I know CJ wants to know when OP Radio in Atlantis World. We'll see, CJ. I think we have enough trouble with Twitter Spaces as it is, but maybe that's a good reason to move OP Radio to Atlantis World. We'll see.
We shall see. I mean, yeah, I think we definitely need to level up in terms of connection. Twitter Spaces is great. I think it's a great concept and people clearly want to come together and speak. So yeah, I think it will take some time for people to realize that they want like more connection, and video call and video chat within a game kind of fulfills that purpose. But
yeah, I think in my opinion, like with the metaverse and the idea of the metaverse as a whole, like technology has gotten us pretty far at this point where I can see you through video chat, I can talk to you, I can hear your voice, but there's not this concept of a shared space, which in real life we have like a shared space. And I think Atlantis World offers you like a first rendition of like a metaverse shared space where if it's a Twitter space, if you're going and doing a governance vote, if you're going and doing something on chain, you have a shared space with other people who are also doing the same thing. And that I think just unlocks like a 10x ability to make connections and just like have new instances while you're doing something that you might already be doing. But instead of like a static web page, you're in this dynamic world, which I'm very optimistic about the general idea of having shared spaces. I think that is the next level of the internet. So this is cool that like Atlantis World is like a really big step in that for crypto and for optimism here too.
Yeah, I would love to have like a radio tower building with like a huge satellite dish that I can broadcast OP radio from. I think that'd be fun.
Starlink Lab.
Yeah, there you go. Benji, what buildings would you like to see built in Atlantis World?
Interesting. I think like, let me think about it. I mean, we already today, Elisa, we have, if you correct me if I'm wrong, we have OPHQ, we have the Quicks Museum, there's a 1-inch building, there's a perp, there's a pool together building as well, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think
we're missing a gymnasium. Where's the gymnasium?
There is a stadium.
Okay, nice. Perfect.
You want a gymnasium?
Well, maybe we could, just maybe like a coliseum. We could host like the OP Olympics every year.
Oh, I didn't realize you had Olympics.
We don't. No, we don't currently have OP Olympics, but I'm proposing the idea right now.
Could be pretty cool with some mini games.
I think what could be really fun is like, you have your NFTs, like you get OptiChats up and you're with your OptiChat avatar, and you're just like running around. It's OP Olympics. And it's just like you have like 10 different dApps. And it's the first team to finish doing one transaction on all dApps wins the Olympics. So like, it's kind of like a circuit. Like you go to pool together, you go to Aave, you go to overtime, you do all of these things, and you just like circle around. That could be really fun. And like you win an NFT prize or something at the end.
Would you like to come be a quest designer at Atlantis World, Benji?
Yeah, Benji, I don't think you're busy enough as it is. I think you need to. I think quest designer is a good side hustle for you.
I think I'm going to stick as a quest enjoyer for now, but I plan on winning these Olympics. So, whenever you guys are ready, I'm there. I'm ready to go. I've been putting the reps in.
Benji the Olympian, the quest Olympian. Okay, guys. So I think this has been great. I don't know. I feel like maybe the space is sort of winding down a bit. Is there anything else, Elisa, that you want to talk about, or Elisa or Benji, either one?
I think we got our message out there. I mean, I will definitely invite people to actually test the game out because, one of the main reasons we have launched this public launch is to get feedback from users. So please be as honest as possible. The thread that is pinned in this space, you can find a Google form at the end of, on the last tweet of it, and you can leave your feedback. We're always open to feedback, and you can also join our Discord. Let us know what you think there. And yeah, I think that wraps it up.
I just want to talk a little briefly about the power of public goods and why I think both of our teams do what we do. Is when you build a public good and when it's built out in the open like this, you're essentially creating a series of Lego blocks that others can now go on and build on top of. Composability. And everyone on the stage, like Atlantis World is a public good. They're so open to hearing from the community. They want to build with the community. As a user, playing a quest in Atlantis World, and the same as a builder building on Optimism, you're not just building on Atlantis World, or you're not just using Atlantis World or building on Optimism. You're actually building Optimism and you're building Atlantis World as a community member. And I think that is the power of public goods and the synergies that can be created from there. Everyone's just a DM away. The code base and stuff is just open for people to experiment with, play around with. And those things are just extremely impactful. So whether you're an NFT collection or whether you're a DApp, speaking on behalf of Optimism as a whole and Atlantis World and just larger public goods, that is something that is unlocked in the private world and the private good space, the private bad space. You're not able to do that as much. So I think that is something that everyone on the space should feel as an open invite to go in, to contribute, to join their Discord, to play the game. The game is linked up to play get into the metaverse. Sorry, it's linked on the pinned post. Highly encourage everyone to try it out. And I'll see you on the quest. And when it's time to do the Olympics, I will see you on the floor as well.
Yes, sir. Preach. Thank you, Benji. I think that was a great conclusion to this conversation. And once again, guys, if you're listening to this later, the link is alpha.atlantis.world. And with that, I think we will close out this episode of OP Radio. Thank you, Benji, so much for joining us and contributing your valuable insights to this conversation. And definitely thank you, Atlantis World team, a few of which dropped due to internet issues, but I think Eliza did an incredible job of explaining to us what Atlantis World is. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us, guys. Really enjoyed it. We'll see you on the internet.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.